version of that band, the Libertines, right?
Well, yeah. That happened through hard work, the Libertines thing, because I had a studio for 5 years with my music partner, Gwyn Mathias, who was very experienced in the whole studio scene. He started in Berwick Street Studios within the 70s, and we decided to open a studio which was in Surrey Quays, right on the River Thames opposite Canary Wharf. And we did some interesting things there over that 5 years, and a lot of different players. Chris Farlow came in and did an album, Jimmy Ruffin, a whole lot of people. The lease expired, so that was the end of that. And then Gwyn opened another studio in Clapton, and that's where I got a call one night. We got 3 lads in the studio. They booked the studio. They said they had a drummer, but he hasn't turned up. Can you do the session? So 10 minutes later, Gwyn's rung me, and I got to the studio with the gear, unloaded it, set it up, rehearsed for about an hour, and we recorded. And this young band at the time, it was interesting because it was very like the sort of early Beatles. In fact, they loved the Beatles, but it was only similar in the fact that they were writing hooky tunes, good lyrics, and they related to earlier, sort of 10, 15 years earlier. They were listening to bands like the Walker Brothers, Love, Arthur Lee, Beatles, Kinks, and so on. So because 20 years earlier I'd been through all that playing type situation with bands, it was more comfortable for me to be able to give a sort of Ringo type feel to the tunes, or even a Keith Moon type feel to 1 or 2 tunes. So that I could relate to what they'd been listening to in their tunes and recording with them. And then we worked all the free gigs in London for about 2 years to get a following. Hope and Anchor, 12 Bar Club, the Garage, a load of venues, and we were starting to attract A, a following, and B, some people that were in the business. And we got to where I couldn't afford to be doing these gigs for nothing. And of course they're only 20 years old. I'm working with 3 20-year-old youngsters, and I'm 48 at the time, with a mortgage, So basically I said to Pete and Carl and John, look, we've got a choice of managers. There were 3. And also I looked at the situation about sharing the material. For example, Coldplay, U2 had all gone in and got their deal as a band, as a unit.
Co-writing everything on paper.
Spread. I said to them at this meeting that, we need to, the only way forward is we need work, we need good equipment, we need to be playing, we need to be recording. Even though we'd done an album's worth of recording sort of through the back door situation under my situation at the studio, so it didn't cost. And that album hasn't been released because what happened was I split from the band after that meeting, saying, look, make a decision what manager we're going to have and we can go forward. It didn't, so John left at the same time as me. They then got a deal with Rough Trade and a songwriting thing with Warner Chappell. So it was down as Pete and Carl writing the the tunes, and then bringing in another drummer.
The drummer's contribution to songwriting is rarely acknowledged because on the basis that you're not really
This has
playing
always
notes,
been the
right?
thing, you're quite right. This has always been the thing.
So you've had this issue with the songs they kept doing which had your stamp? for the
Yes,
drumming
indeed,
point?
you know, but again, when you take on another drummer, as we had a band, you know, three-piece band, it was 3 vocals, acoustic guitar or electric guitar, rhythm, lead, bass and drums. And, you know, it's about finding your own space within that, and then contributing to it. I left the band, they got another drummer, totally different style, totally different form of playing music, if you like, you know. I mean, in the case of the record company, Rough Trade at the time, there was a band called The Strokes that were #1, a garage band, and probably recorded in a garage because that's what it sounded like, you know. Very sort of driving, punky type feel. And of course Rough Trade in England wanted an equivalent of the Strokes. So there were the Libertines, with a young drummer who, okay, speeds up, slows down, can play in one style, very sort of punky type feel to it, and so that's what that music became.
It was pushed in
Totally
that
different to
direction.
what I was doing. You know, we were doing different times, signatures, and more subtle form of playing, as opposed to what we call it thrash and out there.
So it was kind of coincidental that you left and then they took this
Yeah,
direction immediately?
yeah. I mean, you could say it was a little bit like Pete Best and the Beatles.
Well, except you were a better drummer than
not,
Pete
not on an equivalent level. But yeah, you know.